It came from the internet. That is quick. He did not do it himself. So
This is undoubtedly the most anticipated product of the year. No internet connection required. No wiring needed. It's super easy to install. Best of all, it's free to use for life. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to set up a multi-camera live stream setup inside of OBS using only webcams. I know you probably have heard that you cannot use multiple webcams to do a multi-camera live switching. I've said it personally as well, but I think partially it's true, but also partially it's a lie. You can do it, it's just this limit on how many webcams you can add because of the USB bandwidth on your computer, but also dealing with the USB cable is not the same thing as dealing with a HDMI cable. In fact, if I connect multiple webcams, let's say 4 webcams, my computer is gonna be working harder to process that webcam signal. However, if I have the full HDMI cameras, that's gonna be easier to the computer because I'm gonna use something called the capture card, and the capture card does most of the processing. And when I do use something like that, I use this switcher right here, which is the ATEM Mini Pro. It's gonna be like an external hardware that will process the HMI signal and get into the computer as one USB input. So that works. Sometimes you may not have, because HDMI cameras cost a lot of money, and you probably get started and you don't have a lot of cash, so you only have, or you can only afford webcams. That's why I'm going to show you how you can actually connect multiple webcams. Ideally, I recommend 2 or 3, but ideally just 2, because again, with the USB cable, you're also going to be limited in terms of distance. You don't want to do super long USB cables. It's probably not practical, so that's why if you do 3, then everything. But if you're a beginner, if you want to be moving and doing some cool stuff, it's going to track you. It's got gesture control and all the good stuff. All right. Another thing that I recommend, obviously, these webcams are going to come with USB cables. So I have 2 USB cables already plugged into the computer. Another thing that I recommend 100% is getting some accessories to be able to mount the webcams. Obviously, the main webcam is probably an angle that will look like this, where it's going to be in front of you. So you can use this little mount kind of on the top of your screen mount that come with the webcams, okay? But for the second webcam, you probably need to put it on something. This one is called like a clamp, right? So clamps on your desk. So if you can clamp on your desk, in fact, I think this is what I'm gonna be using, or put it anywhere you want to create a super wow interesting angle. Or you can get like a cell phone tripod that looks like this, right? So this could be another accessory that I would recommend. Lightweight, you don't need to buy something heavy, or another shorter kind of tripod that can go maybe on the top of. All right, so connect to the USB cable and put it on the top of the screen like that. All right, so we have camera 1 connected, which is our Meet 2. And now second one, we're gonna go ahead and use a different cable, and it's gonna be the OSBA Tiny 2. Now to connect this one, I'm gonna remove the base. And as you can see on the bottom, this little hole here, this is what we're gonna use to connect our magic arm. And I'm gonna go ahead and mount it on my desk and then connect the USB cable. And then we're gonna go to OBS. Now we have our second webcam connected. Gonna go to our screen and set up everything in OBS. Let's go. All right, welcome to OBS. And the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and hit the plus sign and go to, under scenes, and we're gonna create our scene number 1. So we're gonna call it main webcam or main camera. Click OK, and then we're gonna hit the plus sign. We're gonna add a new video capture device, and then we're gonna call it Meet 2. Again, you can call it whatever you want, but it's usually good to just name it something that matches the actual camera. Hit OK, and we're gonna go under device here. We're gonna look for OSBA Tiny. We got the Tiny 2 showing up here, but that's not the one we want. We want the OSBA Mate 2. So as you can see, it's showing up, no problem. And you're gonna go to device resolution type. You're gonna use custom. You wanna make sure you actually do everything. You gotta be intentional. So we're gonna use 1920 by 1080. I wouldn't recommend doing 4K because again, it's gonna depend on what your computer can handle. And you're gonna use 30 frames per second, especially when using USB. You have to be careful, right? You don't You don't want to overload your computer. So as you can see, it's coming in no problem. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and add our microphone because it's gonna use a separate microphone. So that's what I recommend. Right now, I have this microphone connected to an interface. And that's what we're gonna be using. You're gonna click the plus sign again, depending on what you're using. I do recommend you connect a USB microphone or use an interface or whatever. Today we're not talking about microphone. But if you have it connected already, I will show you how to just go ahead and add it. So click the plus sign under the same theme and then go to the new source. It's gonna be an audio input capture source, and then we're gonna call it main mic, and then you click OK on the device. You're gonna look for the name of the microphone. So it's gonna be the microphone broadcaster duo main. This is my mic. Yours will be different, and as you can see, it's showing up, and you have some audio coming in. Now, next up, you're gonna hit the plus sign. Then on the scene, so we're gonna see in a second. In the dashboard, it's a camera. Another camera on the side. You can see and then we're gonna go under sources on that scene. First thing you wanna do, you wanna enter the microphone so that when you switch angles, it's still using the same audio, right? You're gonna hit the plus sign and then we're gonna go ahead and add audio input capture source. And then for now, we're not gonna add the new microphone, obviously, because it's already have it. You're just gonna click add existing and choose the main mic, which is the one we just added, and click OK. So basically, it's like a copy of the one added. And then once we're done, we're gonna go ahead and camera. So we're gonna click the sign and then click video capture device and then we're gonna time it to click two and then go for all spots time two right here. Boom. And then device, we're gonna go ahead and choose custom under resolution type and then we're gonna go ahead and choose 1920 by 1080. Again, most webcams can do 4K. If you do this kind of setup, we advise you to just stick to 1080 because 4K would scare me. Okay, but feel free to try. And then everything else leave the way it is. Just click OK, and then boom. So now I can come from camera one and then go to camera two. However, I just want to make sure everything looks good because remember, guys, when I took using two cameras from the same manufacturer, and the beauty of using Osbat, let me show you, we have a software. If you go to osbat.com/download, there's a software called OnStack Center. So you can go ahead and actually download it. And then I already have mine downloaded. What this is going to allow us to do is the ability to control the cameras. So you can control the cameras, adjust the image, make sure everything is looking good. Right here in this where of your computer, which is awesome. So go ahead and open it and actually try to make some adjustments. So this is what is called OnStack Center. So what's nice about it, as you Consider highly aligned or attend in person, practical days with expert tutors supporting you every step of the way. Whether you want to teach in your local community, travel internationally, or start your own Pilates brand, these practical industry recognized technology. All right, welcome to OPS. And the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna
Some people were asked to complete three puzzles. Puzzle X,
puzzles.
puzzle Y, puzzle Z. The table shows some summary statistics about the times taken in minutes to complete puzzle X, Y, and Z. Shortest time taken to complete. Work out the longest time taken to complete. Work out. Mehmet wants to conduct an investigation about school meals at his school. He wants to take a sample of students from his school. Write down a sampling frame. So what's a sampling frame now? All the students in the school.
All the students in this, all the students in this
All the members of the population. All the members of the pop. That is OBS setup.
that is OBS setup.
Elgato
Elgato
radio output.
radio output.
USB-C. To Elgato cable. Also, iPad. Come to page in. Not come off for this one. For the loose. Not that back. Like it was. Not on me. Someone that one of you so. They see me Ele como faria com você. Ele como foi ele como o futuro. So ele como for this iPad iPad through the HDMI adapter. So now the talk straight for the camera from OBS from OBS from OBS from OBS. It's Jesus Jesus Christ.
Do you want to record this video?
Testing. YouTube Live.
I look in the mirror, I would love to see. It's easy. Mais peut-être pas suffisamment inséré au marché de l'emploi formel. Les ménages souffrent quand les prix du carburant montent ou quand l'alimentation augmente et les entreprises sont elles aussi exposées aux chocs extérieurs, que ce soit l'énergie, le dollar, les tensions géopolitiques, ce qui est évidemment le cas en ce moment avec la crise au Moyen-Orient. Merci beaucoup Christophe, c'était l'info éco. Bonjour Hélène Frade. Bonjour Pauline. Et ce sommet en avant l'Afrique en bon français, Africa Forward, qui débute donc aujourd'hui au Kenya, organisé conjointement donc entre Nairobi et Paris, fait beaucoup réagir dans la presse. Ouais, la France affaiblie au Sahel veut rebondir en Afrique et la Croix, commençons par la Croix, cite Pauline les nouveaux mantras français. Pragmatisme, humilité et économie au pluriel. Mais ce discours ne convainc pas l'humanité. Le quotidien ironise sur ce temps béni de l'économie, en référence à la célèbre accountable. So give us a mechanism of what this bill will do differently from whatever is the accountability structure of the FCT as we speak. Okay, so basically, when you have later and rules and regulation and laws, especially when they are codified, that says that before anything is done, these are the accountability mechanism that has to be in place. You have to be accountable to the people of Abuja. Yes, we do not have a state House of Assembly that sort of like acts as a watchdog over what the executive is doing to an extent. But then for every contract that is made to be done, so every demolition, whatever it is that has to be done, it has to be a process that are laid down, which has to be followed. And in doing so, it then ensures that there's a certain kind of limitation that is placed, on the minister, so that you don't have someone, even though this person is not voted and is not accountable to the people, but then there are laid down the laws that then ensures that this person becomes accountable, to the people. And so you have to deal with one explanation on that. Yeah. Yeah, because what I'm trying to say, so the budget is a spending limit structure. It's called a fiscal appropriation bill. It's spending limit that has been put out to say we are going to spend this amount, and when we look at what we're spending, we can say this is what we'll raise, this is the deficit, and this is how we're going to fill that deficit. This is our expenditure. Then there's an appropriation act, the procurement act that talks about how contracts are awarded, the measures and the standards, and all the things that are looked at when it comes to contracts. So I wanted to find out in specific terms, are you saying that, so for instance, let me give you an example. You're saying to spend, if there's an appropriation of 2.2 trillion as it is now, if the minister has to spend anything beyond maybe 8 billion or 500 million, he has to resort back to a certain group of persons or the Senate. The checks, the nitty gritty of that check and balance is what I want to find out I want to find out whether your bill, your proposed bill, if you make it to the Senate, captures. Hello? Yes, I'm trying. The network is a bit shaky. I'm trying to get. Okay, I'll just paraphrase quickly. I was explaining. Can you hear me? Let me establish that you can hear me clearly first. Can you hear me, madam? Hello. Oh dear. We hope we can. Can you? Let me try one more time. If we don't get it, we'll come back to you again. Can you hear me clearly, madam? Right, we'll come back to Madam Aisha in just a moment. But while we're trying to get that sorted audio, so what I was trying to get from her, I hope she may be listening, is the fact that when you prepare a budget, that budget has components. One of those components is the expenditure, which is the spending limit, 2.2 trillion, and of course you're going to tell us the revenue whether it's the FAC or the IGR. Of course, there will be deficit that you want to fill that deficit. And then even when you're awarding contracts, there's a procurement act that guides contracts. So all of that is part of the checks and balance within the system. Somehow they don't have it an assembly. So I agree with her, where the governor may have to go back and forth on certain kinds of spending, depending on the spending limits, or if he has to borrow, of course, he has to go to them. So I wanted to see in specific, if he says a FCTA accountability bill, what is going to be different from what we have now when you have an appropriation? Because when you go to the National Assembly, the Senate in this case, to present your budget, the first thing you will do in presenting the budget is to tell the Senate how the previous budget performed in terms of performance. So that's a form of accountability. So this bill, is it going to be a monthly accountability system or just something legislative that will be highly different from what we have?
And it's an important question that you asked. Yeah, I'm particularly interested in hearing her answer to find out what is in the framework of her bill that will check, spending, excess spending in projects, particularly in capital components of budget. But that's where the devil is in the detail. What is quoted as against what is released, what we find to have been spent. Is there an audit component of the bill? For instance, we've heard that a whopping 39 billion was spent on the International Conference Center. Is there an audit component of the bill to see what was in the books, for the execution of this project, such that in the future, when subsequent executives, because the Minister of the FCT stands as a certain some form of governor of the FCT. So in the future, when subsequent executives are in office, they can defer to that legislation that has gone through, hopefully, all the way to the executive at the federal level and become law, such that they are now guided by this document. But really, it's an interesting, bill that she's coming up with. But how she intends to now, get it all through to the executive to ensure that it becomes law, if indeed she is elected. And another part of the conversation, and I believe that you had this with her, Jeffrey, is if indeed she's elected come 2027, if the president retains his cabinet, she has one man to deal with. Director of the FCT. About her approach.
But I assume, we're told that we don't have. Oh, yeah, okay. The other issues, we have other issues to discuss with her actually. The NDC convention, which held over the weekend. It's really going to be interesting to get a perspective on it because one of the things that is similar between the NDC, the APC, PDP, LP, I think ADC.
You didn't mention ADC, Kelly.
Well, I didn't mention. No, I didn't mention ADC because I get to zone there. So I was going to say that they're not zoning apparently. They're not zoning apparently. But the Labour Party, the PDP, LP, NDC have zones to the south.
Yeah.
The argument for the North states that since 1999, when we returned to democratic rule, the South has, ruled for 18 years. OBJ 8 years, Goodluck 6 years. Of course, we have seen now 4 years. And so if we have another president from the South, that will be 22 years. Yeah, that's one part of the argument. One part of the argument. For the North, it's Buhari 8 years, for the about 2 years. That's one part of the argument because the rule of law, before democratic rule as well, but I would have made sure all of that. So it's interesting to hear how. We don't have those time now. Maybe we'll take a break. And when we come back after this break, we'll bring in our next conversation. Stay with us.
For you, every day is the one. You want for you to use 100 on the track. Growth.
Transfer your old license to Trading 212 and start listing blends today.
100 with the gang. on the dance floor. Truth is, you don't want to keep left. Your future is now. So live it real, loud, or free. You live it 100. It starts with a breath, a moment of quiet. For 50 years,